Good afternoon, everybody. It's 10 after 3 on Tuesday. I am leaving work, headed up to Columbia from just outside of DC to meet up with a friend who I haven't seen in a while. We're going to catch up, drink some coffee, then I'm going to go home and play with my kid and eat some dinner and try and get to bed at a decent hour because the 3 hours of sleep I got last night was not nearly sufficient. I'm a little crooked. There we go. So today was frustrating. Today was very frustrating, and some of the frustration was unavoidable. I had to pull a permit in a jurisdiction where I'm not really experienced with. Haven't pulled too many permits there, and this jurisdiction just started allowing electricians to pull online permits. And I kind of got stuck, so I called City Hall and spoke to a permit tech. And apparently this one thing that I need to pull a permit for is not something that is allowed in the online permits. So I had to go and fill out a paper permit, and tomorrow I'm going to have to at some point get down to the permit office and pull this permit in person, which I'm not really happy about because going to the permit office is a little like going to the MVA. So there's that. The other frustration was very avoidable, and it will lead into my lesson for today. And that is, we got this new guy who I'm sure I've told you guys about. There's a couple things that happened. One, he got hired. The boss hired him without consulting me or the office manager, which he said he was going to do, by the way. He said from now on, you guys are going to be involved in the hiring process. Well, this time he did not do that. And he hired this guy, and then he kind of turned him over to me and disappeared for 2 weeks. So this guy is a commercial electrician. He doesn't really know the code. From what I can tell, most of his experience has been under strict supervision. And we are a company that requires electricians to do mostly residential work, mostly residential troubleshooting, and we require you to be able to work with little to no supervision. So this guy definitely does not have the skill set to be working with us. He's a great guy. Don't get me wrong. He's a great guy. His character is good. He's willing to learn, and he's willing to work, and he shows up on time, and he goes where we tell him to go, and he does what we tell him to do for the most part. Here's the problem. Well, here are the problems. One, his skill set is so limited that I have a very small number of jobs that I actually feel comfortable sending him to. That's problem number one. Problem number two is we have this contract that we've been working on, and we hadn't been there in a few months because we were kind of in a holding pattern, waiting for the other trades to do their stuff so we could come and finish up. And the general contractor on this job calls us on, I guess it was like the day before or the day of us starting this gigantic project, this gigantic all hands on deck project that I've told you about, and basically needed everything done yesterday. So we were kind of stuck with sending this new guy who doesn't have the right, the right experience to this job. And, we were kind of both thinking, like, this could get hairy, but, it's just trimming out. It's not a big deal. Shouldn't be an issue. Well, it became an issue. It became an issue for two reasons. One, this guy apparently doesn't really know the code. And 2, he doesn't have the residential experience. And 3, he's going to finish up a job that somebody else started. Which there are plenty of electricians who can go and do that, but in this case, this guy doesn't have the experience. So it was a very frustrating day because we are now into day 3 of this guy trying to trim out a job that should have taken him one day. And I'm trying to babysit this guy through a job that he's just not qualified to do. And, you know, Lisa, my office manager, and I have both talked to the boss and said, look, this guy's just not cutting it. He may be willing to learn, but this is not the job to be learning on. He really needs to be shadowing somebody and learning the ropes before he can go out on his own. So this leads into my lesson for the day, which is, putting human resources on offense. Historically, human resources has been a primarily defensive game. They kind of wait for problems to crop up. They watch the bottom line and react to that. It's very, very defense oriented, very reactionary. Only taking action when there's a problem. I'm all about putting HR on offense, which means really before there are problems, going in and really figuring out who's a good fit for the company and who's not. And that all starts in the hiring process. That really all starts in the hiring process. You can't just hire somebody because they're willing to work and they're able to work. If it's a job that requires a skill set, a particular skill set, you need to make sure you're hiring people who have that skill set. If it requires a certain attitude or a certain belief system, and I don't mean like a religious belief system at all, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a cultural belief system when it comes to business, a business belief system. For example, my belief is people come first. People come before profit. Period. End of story. No exceptions. And so when I start hiring employees for my businesses, I'm looking for people who believe what I believe. And everybody in a hiring position needs to be looking for people who believe what they believe. That is step 1 to putting HR on offense. Step 2 is looking at your current employees and saying, this person really isn't a good fit. On paper they look good, but, looking at their actions, they haven't necessarily done anything wrong, but they're just not a good fit for the company. And you need to go in and weed those people out and take care of them, which sounds harsh, but if you want your company to be successful, that's something that you need to do. You need to surround yourself with the people who believe what you believe and with the people who are a good fit for the company, skill wise and attitude wise and all of that. So it's basically taking action before the problem occurs, is what putting HR on offense means. Now, going back to the whole skill thing, there are plenty of skills that can be taught on the job. I'm not saying that, and I think that attitude outweighs skill, 9 times out of 10. But if your company requires a certain base level of skill in order to get in there, then you need to stick to that, because otherwise you're going to hurt the company. So that's my lesson for the day. You know, I think that HR needs to go from a defensive to an offensive position, really weed out the problems before they occur, take the preventative measures, and really focus on, you know, building that company culture. Because honestly, guys, like a good majority of company culture is built in the human resources department. And, you know, that includes, you know, the hiring managers. So that's it for me for today, guys. I'm tired, so if I sounded like I babbled, I apologize. I only got 3 hours of sleep last night. I made the stupid mistake of staying up till like 12:30 when my alarm went off at 3:30. You guys can see what I was doing if you follow me on Snapchat, J_Lipman. Yeah, that's it for me. I'm going to go get some coffee and meet up with a friend and catch up and see where we go from there. I hope you guys had a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.